Welcome back to TECHNOBABBLE. Here today with another Logitech computer peripheral, the Logitech G613 keyboard. I'd say one good way to test a keyboard is to write a review using it. Seems like an efficient way of getting two birds with one stone, as the expression goes. So this is a scripted video. In the box we have the keyboard, a wireless USB dongle, a USB extension cable, and a phone stand / paperweight? Not sure why that's there, but sure, I'll take it, and actually occasionally use it, as it turns out. Speaking of use, I know for sure that my muscle memory, a thing I find myself often talking about in my videos, is going to take a while to get accustomed to the layout of the G613, as it's drastically different than the keyboard I have been using for the last 2 years. Over 2 years. One of the first things I noticed about this keyboard is just how gargantuan it feels and looks, and objectively is in comparison to my old keyboard. It's heavy, it feels sturdy, and though the keycaps don't set off any kind of alarms, they also don't feel much different to me than some I've used on OEM keyboards that come baked in with PCs from the late 90s and early 2000s. My reasoning behind purchasing the G613 was I wanted a keyboard that allows me to replace the switches and keycaps, a commodity my low profile ultra slim choice of keyboard doesn't have. It also needed to be wireless, and I really like having a number pad, so that narrows it down quite a lot. The G613 has a lot of extra buttons too, most of which I haven't made much use of yet, but I'm sure any shortcuts could be easy enough to learn once set in the G-Hub app, assuming the app does better with keeping shortcuts and bindings in use for the keyboard than it does the mouse. That problem is probably half of my review really for the G305 mouse, link in the card above. So maybe, all in all, I should have waited a bit longer on my purchase, as it seems that not everyone loves the Rummer G switches or the G-Hub app. But I'm relatively new to PC gaming and new to caring about the peripherals for a PC to begin with. What I mean by that is, I've never before considered the latency of a keyboard, or what ghosting was, or what it meant. For those who may not know, and in layman's terms, well, at least how I've grown to understand it, ghosting is the ability to press multiple keys at once, or the lack thereof. So what you want is a keyboard with anti-ghosting. Taking that basic knowledge and a baseline of what I want in a keyboard, that boiling down to be one I can potentially buy parts for and allows me to press more than like 2 keys at once. I took that knowledge to Amazon and spent 3 afternoons shopping around, and it came down to a choice between this G613 and a Royal Kludge keyboard. I had set myself a $100 spending limit for both the mouse and keyboard combined, and the Logitech keyboard was bundled with the G305 mouse, a mouse that I was planning to get standalone anyway, and the bundle was priced at exactly $99 when I placed it in my cart under Save for Later. Seemed like a really good deal, right in my budget, and basically everything I was looking for in a keyboard. Later that same evening, I went to show my wife the keyboards I had been researching, and the Logitech bundle had gone up in price by around $8. So I asked her then and there, without much consideration for any other keyboards I was looking at, if I should just go ahead and purchase the bundle before it went up in price again. Which means I wound up spending around $8 more than what my budget originally had planned, but I think it should turn out okay, as long as the keyboard actually works for what I want it to do, and has better ghosting than the Artec keyboard that I've been using, which varies in how many keys can be pressed depending on the row and section you're pressing the keys in. The simplest way to see the comparison is online testing, which shows that the Logitech allows for 10 simultaneous inputs, which makes pretty good sense. The average amount of fingers that people are supposed to have is 10, so mathematically it's a sound principle, right? 10 fingers and 10 keys. And since we're already talking about input and key presses, I find typing on the G613 satisfying but tedious at the same time. Even in the month I've had it, I still find myself having to check where certain keys are. I guess that's just the difference between having 2 years worth of muscle memory with a product like my old keyboard versus a month with a new one. But what about the sound? I hear other people asking. Well, I'm happy to oblige. My wife says that she likes the sound of the G613 more than the RTEC I was using. But I'm personally not crazy about how it sounds. I don't particularly enjoy clicky or clacky keyboards and would be the most satisfied if it was just completely silent. Though I don't know how possible that is with any keyboard that has replaceable switches. And on that note, I haven't had any reason in just a month to replace any switches yet. So maybe that will become its own video when and if I end up having to actually replace some. However, that also doesn't mean that everything has been perfectly hunky-dory either, and during my month of using the Logitech G613, I've had a persistent issue of random yet brief disconnects where, without any kind of warning, the keyboard will randomly stop registering inputs, and well, the best word I can think of to describe it is it feels like a hitch, or a small hiccup with the input. I've had it happen while typing and while playing games. It's particularly annoying while playing games, as it will cause input loss and very briefly cause me to stop in my tracks. Considering the game I've probably played the most on the new PC is Halo Infinite, and also considering that split seconds can matter in online shooters, I do find this hitching to be incredibly annoying. I also have a few other smaller nitpicks I want to throw at it. One small issue being that it has an oddity in that when the switch is flipped to game mode, it turns off the Windows key of all keys, and I didn't know that until I was trying to get a clip of someone who Game Despo and I were pretty for sure was cheating in CSGO. Some guy in a low gravity sniper match was jumping into the air in every match and spinning 360, which seemed funny at first until this guy was getting headshots on every single player on our team without ever taking the time to aim, just constantly slowly jumping and turning in circles and taking our whole team out. Like I said, both of us were fairly sure that the guy was cheating, but that's neither here or there about the keyboard. The issue is just that I wasn't able to get a clip of it, because my default for recording clips on the PC is to use the Windows game bar, which is disabled because the game mode of the keyboard turns off the Windows key, which seems counterintuitive to me. I just have to assume there is a reason, and maybe people want this as a feature since I'm not all that familiar with PC gaming in general, which, if I'm to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what purpose or benefit comes from turning the game mode key on to begin with. Other than it disabling the Windows key, I have no idea what it does. Isn't the speed of the keyboard meant to be baked into the 2.4 GHz lightning speed dongle, with Bluetooth being the inherently slower option? I don't know, it all seems gimmicky to me, so I put it to the test with an online keyboard latency tester, and the variance in the millisecond delays is all over the place and varies from 28 milliseconds up to 200 some milliseconds, regardless of if the game mode switch is on or off. So I still really don't know. I don't understand the point in it other than being a sales gimmick. I know some people test keyboards directly from the board with an inline tester. Maybe it makes a difference there, but wouldn't an online test be more accurate to what you would actually experience during online gameplay? I'm not an expert, just a hobbyist, so I don't feel like I can say for sure. Turning the switch on doesn't make a difference in the online test. So, oh well, I guess what really matters in my case is that the keyboard allows for more simultaneous key presses than my old one, and it's possible to buy replacement switches and keycaps, which is what I was after, and I don't know how much room I have to argue against it in the price range. Just that, does it really need the gimmick? Anyway, to carry on, something I do know, well, at the very least can form a solid opinion on, is that the built-in wrist rest is a nice feature, though it would be nicer if it was just detachable for portability or ease of storage, or even being able to change the angle you want your hands at. So it's nice that it has the wrist rest, but it could have been better implemented, like with magnets or rails. Though on that subject of portability, I imagine most people aren't like me in that I want a wireless keyboard specifically so I can clear it off my desk easily when I want to or need to for things like filming or just going to sleep and not worrying that my kids will get up and destroy the keyboard. So that's a very situational thing for me personally, as I'm really trying to ask of everything I could want out of one device. I have a few other nitpicks, and those are that once while playing Fear 2, I switched it from game mode, as in turned game mode off, so that I could use the Windows G shortcut to get a capture from the game. And when I closed the Windows game bar after getting my clip and switch the keyboard back into the game mode, pressing W or any key on the keyboard would minimize the game and bring up some kind of pen input widget that would appear at the bottom right of the screen. I don't know what caused this or exactly how I fixed it, and it only happened once, so probably not a big deal. Just an oddity that may be worth pointing out. I have also had issues where I hit two keys at once, but I think that's mostly just me not being accustomed to the keyboard itself. I've not really done much in the software with the keyboard after the issues that I had with the mouse, so that's really all I've got to say. The keyboard works, it's solid, bit heavy, seems well enough built, though maybe a bit bulky for true portability. It has a few flaws, and some of those that I can't claim aren't user error, except for the random disconnects, but it does fit into all the criteria for what I was looking for in a keyboard, and it mostly just works. Not much else to say beyond that. This has been Valhalla's Demise on TECHNOBABBLE. Remember to be safe and be good. I hope to catch you in the next one.